On the brutal front line, the 18-year-old Aliya Moldagulova provided crucial cover for her comrades. She scanned the chaotic battlefield, her rifle resting shoulder to shoulder with a fellow sniper. Without warning, her scope framed a German soldier scaling the parapet directly ahead of a team of Soviet infantry struggling to negotiate the barbed wire barrier. Her heart hammered as the enemy swiftly drew his weapon, outpacing the reaction time of the advancing Soviet troops. Taking a steadying breath, she braced, aimed, and squeezed the trigger. It was a daunting distance. Yet Aliya knew she had no choice but to attempt the shot. Her bullet found its mark, striking the German square in the chest before he could unleash a single round. She exhaled and smoothly cycled the bolt of her Mosinnagant. The Soviet soldiers surged forward, storming the Germans' forward trench line. But as the assault devolved into a frenzied melee, differentiating between ally and adversary became nearly impossible. Aliya and her partner shifted their position, seeking a clear vantage point, which drew them closer to the relentless artillery bombardment. They found refuge in a shell crater, and immediately resumed their deadly work, eliminating target after target, seemingly oblivious to the torrent of explosive ordnance exploding moments ahead. A mortar round slammed into the earth nearby, and shrapnel tore into her left hand. Though wounded, Aliya pressed on. She grunted from the pain and ducked back into the crater's shelter. She was bleeding profusely, but driven by sheer resolve. She initiated field dressing the injury, with her partner's aid to staunch the flow. Ignoring the throbbing pain, Aliya crawled back into position and resettled her rifle, using her less-injured wrist for support. Her grim duty persisted. Over and over she fired, clipping German helmets peering over the parapet, enabling her comrades' steady advance. The pair relocated again, moving rapidly across the pulverized fields. However, back in the trench, a German soldier seized an abandoned machine gun and spotted the two small figures traversing no man's land. A muzzle flash erupted from the German line, and a hail of bullets whistled around the snipers. They sprinted desperately, diving into the sanctuary of a nearby crater. She checked herself as lead pounded the surrounding earth. She was unharmed, but her rifle was not. The machine gun fire had shattered her scope. They attempted to return fire, with Aliya shooting despite her crippled sight, but it was clear her shots were ineffective. Another sustained burst of enemy fire forced them to hunker down. They watched and saw multiple muzzle flashes behind the German parapet, as Soviet soldiers had reached the machine gunner. Pause for a moment. If you're finding this account of Aliya's bravery as gripping as we are, please take a second to hit that like button, drop a comment telling us your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories from history. Your support helps us share these vital narratives. Thank you. The silence allowed the snipers to move again. Along the way, she discovered a discarded submachine gun beside a fallen Soviet soldier. Aliya picked it up and, filled with fierce resolve, informed her partner that she was heading directly to the front line. She dashed across the battlefield, plunging into the newly captured trench. There, she found a company of Soviet soldiers locked in a firefight with yet another defensive line further on. The men were astonished to see their snipers suddenly in the thick of the action, but they quickly briefed her on their position. She looked out onto the ground ahead, where artillery and mortar rained down in the desolate expanse, separating them from the next enemy trench. Yet, beyond the smoke and mayhem, Aliya could finally discern their objective. The Nasva railway station, a critical artery for the region's logistics. Capturing it would cripple the main supply route for the Germans invading the northwest of the Soviet Union. Group of Germans suddenly charged out of their trench, mounting a Aliya and her comrades opened fire from the parapet, swiftly cutting down the stormtroopers. Two subsequent German attacks bravely entered no man's land, and both were violently repelled, the enemy soldiers being mercilessly mowed down. The Soviet commander bellowed in encouragement, and they all charged over the parapet as one. They were instantly met by a barrage of gunfire, forcing them to flatten and crawl forward under fire. Aliya pushing forward side by side with the men. They crawled until only a couple of dozen meters of open ground separated them from the enemy trench. Aliya could feel how close they were. But suddenly, a machine gun barrage tore through the concentrated soldiers. They scrambled for cover, squeezing into craters as dirt and bullets slammed into the earth around them. Acting completely on her own initiative, Aliya suddenly sprang into action, crawling determinedly toward the machine gun nest. Her small stature proved advantageous as she inched closer, right beneath the enemy's field of fire, initially undetected. Many young Soviet women carried a single grenada preference for a glorious end over the horror of capture. Aliya reached down and realized she was without one. Looking back, she signaled to a comrade in the crater, who swiftly hurled a grenade toward her. She snatched it, crawled as close as she dared, pulled the pin, and lobbed it at the enemy soldier. The ensuing explosion silenced him. Aliya looked back at her platoon and saw carnage. Many lay dead, including the company commander. The surviving men appeared lost, their eyes clouded with worry. The death of their leader had left them paralyzed by indecision. Seeing the tide of battle about to turn, she desperately implored the men in her native Kazakhstan. "Soldiers, brothers, let's do this." The words galvanized them. Up and down the line, the men lurched back into the assault, inspired by the 18-year-old urging them forward. Galvanized, they braved the torrent of bullets for a chance at victory. They flooded the trench, and the two sides clashed in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Aliya fired at every German she could, relentlessly pushing through the enemy defenses. The men followed her, with Aliya boldly leading the attack from the very front. Then, a German officer rounded a corner, pistol drawn. Aliya tried to fire, but she was too slow with her wounded hand. The enemy shot her, but operating on pure adrenaline, she gunned him down with her submachine gun. That energy was fleeting. Her mind swiftly registered that she had been hit. She was forced to collapse, abandoning the forward thrust as the men she had rallied charged on without her. As the immediate fighting subsided, some of the soldiers stopped and began rendering emergency aid, dragging her from the immediate combat zone. We cannot know for certain if Aliya's life flashed before her eyes, but if it did, it would have conjured up hard memories. Abandoned by her father, her mother was tragically shot while foraging for stray potatoes during the Great Famine of the 1930s. Aliya was only 8 years old when her mother died. With the rest of her family either gone or absent, Aliya was forced to roam the village, seeking food and shelter whatever possible, until her uncle took her in a year later. He raised her as his own and tried desperately to protect her, even attempting to persuade her to leave the front line, but she adamantly refused. Her actions that day unquestionably saved countless lives. The Soviets would successfully drive the Germans from the rail station just days later. She was evacuated to a care station where her condition was stabilized, and she began her recovery. Tragically, it was not to be. A German artillery barrage struck the station, claiming her life. She was officially credited with 37 kills during her sniper duties, but her true total tally was at least 78, including over 20 enemies from her final fight, with some sources claiming the number was closer to 90. Aliya Moldagulova was posthumously awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union for her unbelievable skill as a sniper and a profound courage in the heat of battle. Today, statues stand in her honor across the former Soviet Union and in her home nation of Kazakhstan. That concludes the incredible story of Aliya Moldagulova. If you were moved by her unwavering bravery and sacrifice, please show your appreciation by hitting the like button, leaving a comment below, and most importantly, subscribing to our channel for more powerful historical accounts. Your subscription helps us continue sharing these stories. Thank you for watching.